Welcome to another episode of Going Beyond the Title, from individual contributor to leader, where we interview people on the topic of leadership. I'm your host, Michael Scarponi, and today's guest is Kirsten Hockberg. Welcome.
Thank you.
Kirsten is quite the accomplished leader, having served as independent board director for a number of organizations, passionate for leading and improving teams, and has been interim the CEO and COO for a number of organizations. Before we really get into the crux of the leadership questions, tell me about leading and improving teams. How do you do that? What's the challenges here?
Well, in terms of how you do it, I think it goes to spending time with team members, getting to know them, understanding their strengths and weaknesses, and then figuring out how to leverage their strengths to work together as a team. It's also about creating a vision for the team. I find a lot of leaders lack that. And so coming in, setting a vision, making sure people understand where we're going, why we're going there, and what their role is in that helps bring clarity.
Excellent. I love that. What about, I know this has got to be challenging. When you are called in as an interim CEO and COO, things are not working perfectly, I'm guessing.
That's right. Why they call me.
The ship is a little bit, tipping one way or the other. Tell me the challenges involved.
So there's a lot of businesses challenges for sure. Almost every time I get called in, it's not because things are going well, as you said, but there's generally also team dynamic challenges. So understanding the business challenges, how to overcome them, and then do we have the right people on the team to make that happen is my job.
Yeah. And how do you, I'm guessing when you parachute in, there's some resistance to the new person on the block. How do you handle that?
Just try and be my authentic self. I've come into situations. So I used to work in private equity. And boy, if you want the private equity guy to come in, be prepared for not a warm welcome. I've sat down at lunch tables and everyone got up and left. That was the worst case. And so it's about just being my authentic self and saying hi, I'm Kirsten. I'm not here to run your company or take your job away. I'm just here to learn. About this, tell me. And you'd be surprised how much people open up.
Yeah. When people left you, to get up and walk, by the way, that's happened to me too. How did you handle it?
I kind of laughed at it, right? And then I found one or two people, again, this particular company, my job was to improve unit economics. That's what I was there to do. This was when I was working in private equity. And I started to do things for the company to bring value. And I worked with one or two people in the organization. When they started seeing oh, wow, she is actually here to help, that changed, because all of a sudden then they were sitting with me at lunch. And then when others saw them sitting with me, then they came over to sit. And pretty soon I was part of the group.
It's that whole trust piece, right?
That's right.
When you become an authentic person, people build up their trust in you, and that's part of the battle.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell me, how'd you get into this work?
It's interesting. I studied supply chain and logistics, and my goal was to become the VP or head of supply chain for a Fortune 100 company. And I thought I would be there by age 60. I got there at age 30. And so then I started thinking okay, what's next? And at the time I was working at Safeway. Safeway was acquired by Albertsons, and I got tasked to merge together the supply chains for Safeway and Albertsons. And I was working with the private equity team to do that. And I got really interested in private equity. And so I left Safeway and I went to go work for a private equity fund and then a different one. And fascinating work, loved it. But one of the challenges of being an operator at a private equity company is, at least the one I was at, I didn't have a lot of agency. And so, you basically go where you're told to go, you do the job you're told to do. It's kind of like being in the Army. And it was fantastic learning. Wonderful. I got to do so many interesting things, work on so many great projects, great companies. But I didn't know if I would be there next week or next month or next year. And so during the pandemic, I left private equity and I went to go start my own consulting business doing the same type of thing. But this way I get to decide when I travel and what do I want to work with a company in Kansas or one in New York City. And so having some control over my work is great.
That's fabulous. Tell me a win that you are especially proud of. What's one thing that comes to mind?
So when we talk about leadership, one of the things I'm particularly proud of is the work I did at Safeway. I inherited a team of people, and at the time we were not functioning as a team. And I worked together to figure out the strengths of the individuals. There were some people who weren't going to cut it. let those people go. There were some people we needed to hire. I brought those in, and all of a sudden we started to work as a team, and a good team. And we actually were responsible for convincing the organization to put in place an SNOP, sales and operations planning process, which didn't exist before, and to get a $60 billion company to kind of change its ways and start trying something new felt like moving a mountain. And it happened, and we did it, and we started getting great results and saving millions of dollars. So I'm particularly proud of that, because it's not only the business aspect that we were able to do, but it was coming together as a team to get that done.
Tell me, what was the most interesting organization that you worked with as either CEO or COO?
The most interesting. Gosh, they've all been really fascinating.
Anyone that sticks out that you're like walked into a hell of a wasp's nest, or something that, just one of the companies that sticks out? No names, please.
There was a wasp's nest that I walked into. The COO had been let go the week before. The company was losing money hand over fist, and it was my job to figure out how to fix it. And I had to do it quickly because they were going to run out of money. And I did. Again, figuring out the business case and then figuring out who I needed to hire. I made 2 hires within my first week there who were phenomenal, awesome people, and let 2 people go within the first week or 2. They were not great. And so by up-leveling that talent, all of a sudden we could work together to fix the business case. And we did. And again, saved millions of dollars, stopped the bleeding, renegotiated carrier contracts, did all these things to really get the company humming. Yeah. And so that was one, and it was hard work. Like in hindsight, it was like, oh, I did this, and this, and this. But at the time, I mean, it just felt like absolutely moving mountains to make it happen. And it did. So I think part of leadership is perseverance, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's about going through challenging times. And Josh, I've had another example too. I mean, yeah. And having that perseverance and working together as a team to get things to happen.
Yeah. Migrating people out of the organization is always difficult, right?
It's never fun, but sometimes I feel like the people know they're not doing a great job, and it's not fun to come to work every day knowing you're not doing great. And so in a lot of ways, finding a better fit, like there was this one woman, she was not the right fit for the role, just absolutely not. And I sat down with her and I said, listen, you have a very low risk tolerance. You're at a startup. Like, this is not a good fit for you. You need to be somewhere bigger, stabler, where you can come in, what you're going to do every day, and you don't have things changing on you all the time. And so we had a very frank conversation. Yeah, she left. And so that was like a planned exit, if you will.
Sure.
But I always find being really candid. I mean, people know when they're not doing well. And so having that conversation out in the open, I think is important.
Perfect. On the other side of the coin, what's a mistake that you've learned the most from, or something that didn't go as well as you had planned that you really?
Yeah, when I was the CEO, I was the CEO of a multinational company and a CPG company. And it was originally family run. It got bought out. The family members were still involved, and they just weren't at the right caliber for what we needed. And I had very little patience for that, very little patience. And in hindsight, that was a mistake. So for me, I get a lot of stuff done. I'm very good at it. Patience is not a strong suit. And that is something throughout my career where I really have to check myself, because there are some things that require a little more patience and delicate hands.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that you're the type of person that can go in and diagnose a situation right away and then be able to act on that, when what the organization needs is a little bit more elasticity, if you will.
That's right. So it was a great learning.
Yeah. Who do you typically serve or work most closely with? Is there one particular industry, or is it across?
I've worked across industries, from cybersecurity to media to restaurant groups. My preferred industries are consumer goods and food and beverage.
Okay. Why food and beverage and consumer goods?
Well, I like to eat and drink, so that's where the food and beverage comes in. And frankly, I like tangible products, right? Like consumer goods. I had so much fun working at Safeway, because the projects and the things I would work on, I could see on the shelf when I did my grocery shopping every week. Prior to that, yeah, I'd worked in semiconductor equipment manufacturing, which is very technical. And you can do all this work on a wafer, and eventually it winds up in your cell phone, but there's a lot of steps in the process to get there that you just don't see. So for me, like, tilapia, my dad was complaining he couldn't get good tilapia, and I talked to the fish guy and we did this, that, and the next thing you know, we got tilapia, right? And so having that direct impact on the customer is fun.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest challenges are that you're seeing in these organizations? I mean, is
So
there?
I think there's definitely a leadership challenge. And this is why I'm so happy and honored to be on this show. I was looking at some statistics, and apparently only 38% of US employees express confidence in their leader's decision. So about a third, right? And then 32% of US employees cited their immediate supervisor as the most stressful part of their day. Now, I am so lucky that I have worked with supervisors and bosses. So many of them have been fantastic. I've had a few that were not so great, but for the most part, really fantastic, supportive. They're the best part of my day. And so I feel very lucky that I had that experience. And I think if others had similar experiences, people would be a lot happier. Yeah, that's definitely a problem I see.
Tell me, why do you think there's such a leadership void? Curious. I mean, you
Well,
spent time coming in as a CEO, COO.
yeah, so I have worked in some organizations where leadership and training was highly prioritized. I've worked in other organizations where it was not. And I think that it's easy to say, like, okay, we're going to cut this out of the budget because what does it really do? It does a lot, a lot. And I think that it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with AI too, because AI enables lower level and less experienced people to take on more responsibility. But
Yes.
often those people don't have the experience, and particularly the leadership experience for
Mhm.
those positions.
I just, interesting you should mention that. I just interviewed somebody from MIT who's like the leading expert in AI. We had a great conversation about its impact on leadership, and it's going to be strong.
Very strong.
Very
So
strong.
at the board level, this is some of the things I'm thinking about, right? Not only the governance issue, but also how it impacts the workforce.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a gap here that I want to kind of explore with you. And I'll use the example of time management classes. I've been through a ton of time management classes through my career. None of them really stick. And I see that sometimes with leadership classes that I teach, that after I'm gone, behavior goes back to kind of where it's been. What's the gap here? How do we make this stuff really come together so that people can grow from it? It's a difficult question I get, but I don't know if you have any insights into it.
I don't. I think it depends a little bit, because when I think about some of the classes I've taken, there are certain aspects of the classes I've taken that do really stick. I remember I went to one class on time management or how to run an effective meeting. Oh my gosh, I still remember so many things from that class. It was so good. So I think part of it is applicability. Like, are you teaching the things that individual needs right now, right? That they can actually take away and use in the moment. Because I think, like, if you teach something and it's like, oh, that's an interesting idea, or conceptually that makes sense, but then that never gets used, or it gets implemented or needs to be implemented a year later, if there's not a direct need, then I think it can kind of not, by that time they've forgotten it. So trying to figure out what that individual needs right now to be a better leader and giving training around that may help.
Excellent. I agree with you, 100%. Yeah. What's one piece of advice that you would give to emerging leaders or leaders in general?
So one of the things I see or have seen is that new leaders get really happy. I'm the leader now. I'm the leader. You have to do what I say because I'm the leader. And I would flip it around. So I'm a big fan of servant leadership. Leadership's a big responsibility. And when you are the leader, you are responsible for the careers and for the happiness and for the results of your team. And so it is your job to figure out, like, what do they need? And it's not, hey, I'm the leader, you have to listen to me. It's, hey, I'm the leader, what can I do for you?
Yes. Yeah. I love servant leadership. Can you explain a little bit for those that might not be familiar with it, the main concepts around that?
Yeah, it's kind of like it sounds. The leader is the servant. So it's the leader's job to remove roadblocks and do anything he or she needs to do to support the team. And whether that's cleaning the toilet, sweeping the floor, like whatever the team needs, it's your job to do that. I remember I was the CEO of a manufacturing company. Floors needed to be swept, whatever. The staff didn't have time, wasn't doing it, whatever. I grabbed a broom, sweeping it up, right? That's servant leadership, where you see something that needs to be done, you do it. And it's about not asking your team to do anything you wouldn't do.
Right. It's almost like flipping that traditional pyramid upside down.
That's right.
Tell me what beliefs about leadership did you have to let go of when you got into being CEO that, go back to early on in your CEO interim experience? What were some of the beliefs that you held on to? Like you said, oh, this isn't going to work.
Well, I think for a first time CEO, that is a very difficult change. And for me, I went from being really good and exceptional at what I did to all of a sudden having no clue about sales, finance, marketing. Like there were all these functional areas I had never worked in. I didn't know. And so to go from being an expert to all of a sudden like, crap, I'm totally new at this.
Yes.
Right. And that ego around, oh, I'm not so good anymore, needing to have an open mind and listening to others, and then making a decision and sitting with myself to say, like, is what this person's telling me really the right thing? That was challenging, and but like really great, really a great skill to have.
Sure.
To know that you don't know it.
What new skills did you or beliefs did you have to adopt?
What were the beliefs I had to adopt?
Yeah. What are the new beliefs about leadership did you have to kind of put into your?
Well, that it's a different job. It's not about being an expert at XYZ, like, oh, I'm great at running operations, or I know everything about manufacturing. It's no, no, no. Like now I don't know. So now I need to just be a leader. I need to be here for my people. I need to figure out what they need to thrive, and I need to make sure as a leader that I have the right people on my team to do that.
Yeah. One of the things
So, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's just like it's a different job.
One of the things I'm struck by in organizations overall is the way they get ahead is because they're good tacticians. So you rise up the ladder because you're doing good at manning a machine or, working machine. And then you get to supervise machinists and then VP and VP level machinists, et cetera. But when we get into the higher level leadership roles, as you said, there's so much more dimension to that than just knowing machines, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because there is so much more than just knowing machines. And that said, like if I have the choice of someone who knows the machine really well but is a terrible leader, or the choice of someone who's a great leader but doesn't know anything about the machine, I would choose the great leader. But man, if you learn about the machine too, it helps build credibility.
There you go.
It's great to have both.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, it's less about the machine and more about the people, because you can find great people to run the machine, but you need to inspire them, create a vision, articulate that vision, and make it happen.
Tell me, you talked about going in as CEO and making determinations if you got the right fit of people, right? Because you want to surround yourself with the best people. How do you know? Is it metrics? Is it a gut feel? I mean, what's the key indicators? Is there anything specific?
Well, and again, if I were to go back now, what I know now is very different than what I knew then, right? So back then it was very challenging to know, especially, finance. Do I need an accountant? Do I need someone who knows FP&A? Do I need both? Like, what do I actually need? I don't know. And now I do, but back then I based it on how does, first of all, culturally, is this person a good fit? I had a CFO, we were in the middle of a fundraise one time, and I had a CFO that says, well, I'm going away for 6 weeks and I'm not gonna have my phone on, and I don't care if we're in a fundraise or not, but I'm just going away. And I was like, okay, you're not the best fit. This is also a guy I asked about, hey, what's our unit economics? And he's like, I don't know, how would I know that? I'm like, well, you're the CFO, so I expect you to know that. So there's enough like red flags with this particular individual that it's like, okay, you know what? We're just culturally not a good fit. I ask questions that should be in your domain. They're not. We have a problem here. And your willingness and ability to work during a very critical time, that's an issue, right? Yeah. So that was a pretty easy one. I think where it gets a little harder is if culturally it's a great fit, you like the person, but you just aren't seeing the results.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes to coaching. Like, okay, what do you think here? Like, you look at the results, I look at the results. What are you seeing? Why is this happening? But at the end of the day, like, people need to deliver.
Got it. What do you think people need in leadership to help them develop the skills that they need? We talked about training a little bit. What else do they need?
I mean, this is where it gets a little tricky. I think good models. And again, I have been so fortunate that I have worked with some tremendous leaders. But modeling that behavior, I think, is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. As you said, people will gravitate towards you if you're authentic, if you model the correct behaviors, and if you develop trust, they'll begin really appreciating you as a leader. Those barriers come down. Anything else that you want to say about this topic?
Well, I just want to thank you, Michael. I think this is so important, what you're doing, and creating strong leaders is, I mean, again, if you look at the statistics, we need more of them. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your sharing with us your stories, particularly fascinated by all of them, but especially the interim roles, because that takes a whole different level of attributes that you have to have in order to set the ship on the right course.
It does. And most of the time you need to move quickly, which is great because I tend to move very quickly. It is definitely two-sided, depicting and picking apart the business situation and what we need to do to fix it. It's kind of like if a machine's broken, it's like, why is this broken? Diagnosing it. Okay, great. We're going to get a new clamp in here and that'll fix it. Great. But then it's implementing those changes, and that requires the right people. Make it sustain, right? Because you don't want to be in a situation, particularly as an interim, where you walk out and it all falls apart again.
Yeah, it all goes back to its original form, like the last. Yeah, we don't want that. Well, again, thank you very much for sharing all this. I really, really appreciate it. And if people need to get a hold of you, how can they do so?
So LinkedIn is probably the best way. Kirsten Hockberg is my name, and last name is Hochberg. I have my email address up there and would love to hear from people.
Excellent. Well, I hope that folks listening to this will definitely tap into your expertise. It's fast, and you're a value add for sure. Appreciate the time. This is Mike Scarponi, and we will catch you on the next episode of Going Beyond the Title, from individual contributor to leader. Take care.